Hi there, folks. I hope you had a good day today and that you're having a good evening too. This is a story that is about the kid we talked about yesterday, the one that God said would become king, but for now, he was learning to play music and he was learning to take care of sheep. He was learning a lot of things that would actually become very important later in his life. He didn't even realize how much he was learning that was going to become useful. And we'll talk about that later too. But at this point in his life, he just felt like everybody else was getting to do stuff. And everybody kept telling him, no, you're too, well, I'm getting ahead of the story again. I know. Let me read it for you. You remember his name, don't you? It was David. One day, says the Bible, an enemy army came to take over King Saul's land, and the king called for the people to make an army. They would protect the land. And 3 of David's brothers, remember he had a lot of brothers, 3 of them went to join King Saul's army. But the king didn't ask David. The king thought David was too young to be a soldier. I must send you home, David, the king said. You helped me so much by playing music, but I don't want you here during the fighting. My helper will take you home. David was not happy at all. I like this picture. I think this picture really gets at it, doesn't it? Here he is. He's getting bigger. He knows he can do a lot more, and he thinks he can do as much as his brothers. Actually, he can't yet. He's really not big enough to do a lot of this stuff yet. But they wanted him out of the way to keep him safe. And he just didn't like the idea because he felt like they were saying, no, you're still a baby. And they weren't saying that. They really didn't mean that at all. But that's how he heard it and how it came out in his mind. And so there he is going like that, kicking a stone. So David wasn't happy at all. He wanted to be with his brothers. He wanted to fight the enemy. And when he got home, he told his father, I can fight. Remember when I saved the sheep from the lion? Now that's impressive. Yes, David's father said patiently, I do remember, but I need you here at home to take care of the sheep. That makes sense. Even if David wasn't at court, which is where a king lives, playing music for him, if 3 of his brothers went off to fight in the army, he was needed more at home. And David, he had forgotten how much people needed him, and he didn't realize that they needed him the way that they did. But they knew that he could do a lot of things that he wasn't even giving himself credit for. And he could just hear people saying what he couldn't do instead of hearing them say how much he could do. Well, one thing he could do was this. Jesse knew that young David had a good heart. And he called to David and he said, your brothers have been away for a while. They will need some food. David's heart jumped up. He was excited about going to see his brothers. He missed them, and he wondered what was happening at the battle. Very early in the next morning, Jesse loaded up a donkey with food. And here you go. He loaded the donkey and he set David out with it on his journey. And as David got closer to the valley, he could see where King Saul's army had set up its camp. And as he came closer, David could see the 2 armies as they faced off against each other. King Saul's army was on one side, and the enemy's army was on the other side. And David He finally arrived at Saul's camp. He ran to his brothers and he said, "Father sent me to bring this food to you." And that is when something exciting happened. And you're going to hear about it tomorrow, not tonight. Ha ha ha. That's what they call a cliffhanger. It's when you leave off in the middle of a good story because it's a good place to pick up tomorrow. Why am I saying that? Because when you're younger, you need to get your sleep. Yes, even if you want to stay up longer, you have to go to bed so that you grow bigger and stronger and can do all that other stuff. And eventually you'll get to the point where you wish people would just let you take a nap. David wasn't there yet. You're not there yet. But be patient and come back tomorrow for the story. Good night.